Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Thomas of Woodstock and we get to hear from the Schoolmaster today in Act 3, Scene 3. Now, this Schoolmaster is just sort of walking through the streets, minding his own business. Well, minding his own business while he's still sticking his nose into other people's business. But this is not the day to do it because we started off this scene hanging out with Crosby and Nimble and Fleming and the bailiff, who are just sort of out in the streets in England trying to get signatures and seals on these blank charters. And they split up a little bit. We had Nimble and the bailiff go one way, and we had Crosby and Fleming go another way. And they've also all been instructed that if they overhear anybody speaking ill of the king or his flatterers, they are also supposed to arrest them. So they overheard Cowtail and a farmer and a butcher saying that, strange things are afoot. They didn't know what it was that they were going to have to be signing, but they had to sign some things, and they had heard all these things about the flatterers and the king spending all kinds of money and wasting all kinds of money, all this sort of stuff. And they were sort of forced to put their names on these charters, their names and seals, and then they were also arrested for speaking ill of Richard. So once they are taken away, the schoolmaster and his servant come in, and the schoolmaster has written some poetry about Richard and his flatterers that is not necessarily flattering. And I'm just going to give you a quick heads up. There is a word in today's monologue. It's an F word that can mean a small stick for burning, but it might be a little bit triggering. So I apologize to anybody for whom that word is a trigger, but I don't believe that it's used in the context that in modern day it would be used. But anyway, so the schoolmaster shares a little bit of his poetry, and the last line of it is "God bless Tresillian." And so he's like, what do you think? Isn't this great? And his servant is like, you can't run around saying that sort of stuff. Like, there's people everywhere. You can't say stuff. And the schoolmaster says, "Nay, look ye, sir, there can be no exceptions taken, for this last line helps all. Wherein, with a kind of equivocation, I say, God bless my Lord Tresillian. Do ye mark, sir?" Now, here, in the next verse, I run o'er all the flatterers in the court by name. Ye shall see else. A poison may be green, but bushy can be no faggot. God mend the king and bless the queen, and 'tis no matter for Bagot. For Scroop he does no good, but if you'll know the villain, his name is now to be understood. God bless my Lord Tresillian. How like ye this, sir? So this is him continuing on with his poetry and very obviously stating by name that the flatterers to the king are not good. He mentions Green and Bushy and Bagot and Scroop and Tresillian all in this as they are not good people and they are not helpful, but he does end with God bless my Lord Tresillian, and he's hoping that by repeating that phrase throughout the verses of his poetry, he'll be okay, because then maybe it can be passed off as mockery or praise or satire or some such thing. But sadly that doesn't work, because we have the bailiff and Nimble standing nearby, and they're like, you are absolutely going to be arrested for treason for saying these sorts of things. He's like, no, but I said, and they're like, no, you're arrested. So they are arrested and taken away, at which point just a random guy starts walking through the street and he happens to be whistling something, and Nimble is like, you're under arrest for whistling treason. And the guy's like, I'm just whistling. And the bailiff is like, how is whistling treason? And Nimble's like, well, but there's this song that's going around that has treasonous lyrics, and I'm pretty sure that he was whistling that melody. And the guy who was whistling is like, no, I was out looking for some of my calves, and looking down the hill, I thought that I saw the two of you. I was looking for two calves. You were really far away. I thought that you might be them, so I was just whistling for joy because I thought I found my calves. And Nimble is like, well, all the worse because you thought that we were cows. So you are absolutely going to be arrested for treason for whistling, and you're going to be hanged for mistaking us for cows. So he is then also taken off, and Crosby and Fleming come back, and they're like, okay, we're all having a good day at this sort of thing. And the bailiff is like, yes, see, I signed my own name to a charter. And they're like, yep, we've collected about 1,700 charters. today, so that should be a pretty good haul for the king. So yeah, let's call it a scene. Basically, they don't say let's call it a scene because they weren't meta, but you get the impression that they have wrapped up their work for the day because they have arrested Cowtail and the farmer and the butcher and the schoolmaster and his servant and this poor guy who was just whistling some random tune. So that's the end of Act 3, Scene 3, showing just sort of how chaotic things became with all of these blank charters going around and how scary it was to just be a regular citizen going about your business. You never know who's listening in and what they might take offense at that would get you arrested and then perhaps even promptly hanged for being treasonous to the king. So anyway, with things as they are, we got to get the uncles back in there at some point and see if we can straighten out King Richard. Do you think that's possible? Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.